Welcome to the Education Committee today. Today on our agenda, we have Vote 5, the education vote in terms of the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill of 2023 that has been referred to us, and members have received their respective books. We will also then be discussing and considering our draft program for the referral of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, Section 76B2B 2022, as referred to us by the National Council of Provinces. Further, we will then also have to consider and adopt draft documents that are internal committee documents. Colleagues, I'm going to ask that you all just please introduce yourselves, and then just for Minister and HOD just to introduce their team, and then we're going to jump straight into the respective vote. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is Christopher Fry. I'm a member of this committee.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. I'm Khalid Sayed, also a member of this committee.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair and members. Furlan Christians, a member of this committee.
Morning.
Chairperson, good morning. Colleagues, good morning. Officials, good morning. Minister, HOD Dan Plato, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning to everyone present. To you, Chairperson, it's Mesuli Kama, alternate member to the committee.
Morning. Welcome, everyone. Okay. Those are all the members I see on the panel. So I'm going to hand over to Minister and HOD for introduction. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, especially to members of the committee. I am David Mania, Minister of Education. I will hand over to our head of department, Brent Walters, who can take us through introductions of the members of the department who are present at the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Chairperson and members of the committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to say that we have extensive representation in this meeting. Our senior managers in our topco are in the meeting. I'm just going to mention some names. I see from the list here, Chairperson, with your permission, Mr. Meyer is here. We have he's in the senior management, Mr. Slingers and Mr. Roman. They're supporting on the adjusted information tables, if there are any questions on that. Then we have Ms. Erna Feldman, who's from Finance, Senior Manager, Mr. Mohammed, Curriculum, Senior Manager, Mr. Eli, our CFO, Ms. McLean, who's in the Infrastructure section, Senior Manager, and those are the ones that I can see from the list that is before me right here, Chairperson. So we are fully represented inside this meeting, and we present ourselves and look forward to the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, the vote 5 in your book, I'm not sure now if online, if the numbers are different, but in your blue book, the page numbers for vote 5 is page 71 to page 84. That is the vote, and the annexure that's supplemented is 85 to 97. I'm tabling thus vote 5, and I will now take questions. Colleagues, if you could just indicate also just which page number that you are referring to, and then I will be able to get your names in that regard. I see Member Syed's hand, and then Member Christian's hand, and then Member Karma's hand. I'm going to see those 3 hands first. If we could stick to a maximum of 3 questions each, because then I'll open up for another round of questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson, and my greetings to the department and the Provincial Minister. Page 71 with regards to the aim. The mission of WCED is to ensure that every child has quality learning. I would like to know what kind of provisions are made in the budget to avert the issue around learners that are not placed in schools by January 2024. Then, on On page 73, rollovers, program 4, public special school education. What is the progress regarding the expenditure of these funds? What caused the delays on expenditure of these conditional grants? And what are the updates on the procurement of the toolkits? Yeah, that's on page 73. Then page 74, sub-program 2.1, primary level realignment of funds for municipal services. Could I get a sense as to what necessitated this particular shift of funds to public special schools? Does it have to do with the steep municipal rates? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Christians?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm just going to ask one or two high-level questions. And the questions I have is, first of all, I see that, the department has made money available for funding of the 2023 wage agreement. So money have, they had to adjust money from program 2, program 4, this is on page 78, program 5 and program 7. And then I also see on page 84 that national government also gave 943 million. What is the total cost that the department must now pay towards the wage agreement? What is the total cost of the department? And if you combine the two of national and provincial, what is that cost? I think that is important. And if the department can also tell us, by adjusting the budget, how does it affect our learners and our educators? Because as we say, every child has quality learning opportunities. Now, how will that affect the outcomes of our learners and also our educators? Maybe just another high-level one is, I'm not going to go into detail, but also the Back on Track program. I see, sometimes there's a reprioritization of funds on page 75, and it's yes, quite a few points. 76 on 2.1 public primary level, public primary schools, primary level, secondary level. So there you have the reprioritization funds towards the programs. If we can just have explanation on that. I'm going to stop there, Chair. That's my 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just for Ms. Hassan Musa, the public wage matters that Member Christian was referring to, it deals with page 78. Member Karma?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, my question will firstly be on page 71, in terms of the appropriations there. We welcome the increase or the allocation from national government, which is around for the implementation of the 2023 wage agreement. And in that line, also noting the lodging of the intergovernmental dispute against national government. And interestingly, Chair, on page 73, we see the reprioritization of the funds which are meant to fund the shortfall of the 2023 wage agreement being shifted towards the funding of the Back on Track program. I therefore want to get an explanation of why the funds for wage agreement are used for other programs, while on the other hand, government, which I believe it's the whole of government representative in this department, lodges a dispute, but use the funds for a different program that are allocated for wage agreement. The other question that I have, Chair, on page 75, sub-program 1.2 corporate services. I want to check the what were these funds earmarked for, and how did the savings occur, and why are we transferring them to Westgro? What work is Westgro doing for the department? And given that these are schools with clear ties to Israel in the province, is Westgro involved in any way in promoting Western Cape education abroad in countries like Israel? My last question, Chair, is sub-program 6.3 on special schools. There's funds that are shifted from special schools to public ordinary schools of an amount of about 29.8 million rand. Now, what I would want to understand in that, Chair, is what is the total that has been shifted from special schools to public ordinary schools in this budget, and why, and what are the infrastructure challenges at special schools that could have been addressed through this budget, and how will the shift affect special schools, understanding that there has been cries in the public around the issue of access to special schools and even availability of these schools in the different areas. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much. You've actually asked 4 questions, but not to worry. In the second round, I will just minus 1. Minister and HOD, you can allocate the questions accordingly, and I'll take a second round after that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I will hand over to the HOD, and then I will supplement at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the questions. Maybe, Chairperson, we didn't get an opportunity to say something in the beginning, which may have steered us. Some of the questions, what I was going to say in the opening remarks, some of the questions may have been answered. So maybe let me just say, broadly speaking, I just want to remind the committee that the wage agreement was a 1.463 billion shortfall for this department. So even though we received the 835 million net adjusted appropriation overall, and we did receive money from, as Mr. Kama in fact mentioned, there was extra money put in. It's still 500 million rand short of what we actually, just to get equilibrium as to where we are. So that's the one thing. And the second point I just wanted to maybe just mention is that the conditional grants were also reduced. Math, Science and Tech grant was reduced by 4.2 million. That's from national. ECD grant was reduced by 14 million. The EIG grant, which is the infrastructure grant, was reduced by 1.56 million, and the HIV grant by 3 million rand. So what in fact the net effect is actually, we weren't given what we were supposed to be given as a department up front, just to cover the salaries. We're still 500 million rand short on that, plus the conditional grants were cut. So when we take that into account, clearly that puts a different texture on what are the things we can actually do as a department to be able to address these shortfalls. And so, yes, we are grateful, for example, for the money that did come to service the wage agreement, but it clearly was not enough to be able to even just reach equilibrium. And at one point, the indication was given to us that we at least funded at 78%, but essentially it's funded at 64%. So even that differential, when you're dealing with the big numbers we are dealing with, then that actually does have quite a massive impact on our business. I think having said that, I think it's important perhaps to have said that in my introductory remarks, and I may deal with some of the questions, but to the specific questions then, the questions that Mr. Sayed asked, if I could ask Mr. Mayor to maybe just answer the question about public special schools on page 73 and page 74. And if Ms. Feldman and Mr. Eli can just look at the questions on the shift of funds to special schools. It was raised by Mr. Sayed. And then Mr. Christian's question, I have really answered that now in my opening remarks in relation to the fact that it does affect our learners because clearly we're not properly funded, although this is more than what we had when we started. So obviously we are grateful for that, but clearly there are shortfalls. I think maybe, as I have said that, but if I can ask Mr. Mohammed, if you could maybe just talk to the bot that was asked by Mr. Christian's, the bot program, and how we're doing in relation to that. And then Mr. Kama, I answered your question specifically in my introduction remarks now, introductory about funding the shortfall and that it wasn't enough, but I think that sort of addresses perhaps some of the concerns that you do have. You did have a specific question on page 75 on corporate services. Maybe Mr. Eli could answer that, but maybe just on the question of why are we transferring funding to Westgrow? So I think it's because the minister had launched a program in this year called EduInvest, where we're looking at how we can stimulate private sector investment inside education to make sure that the burden is equally shared in some way to provide a service to our learners. And that's essentially Westgrow as a partner agency, a government agency. They are looking at investments, looking at attracting investments into the education sector, and they are assisting us with it. I'm sure the minister can speak at a level of detail more on that if it is required. Sub-program of special schools. Why did we shift money from special schools to public ordinary schools? Mr. Eli and Ms. Falcon, if you could answer that question, please, I would appreciate it. I think I've covered all of it, and maybe to ask those colleagues that I have indicated now, if they could please answer the questions to the best of their ability, please. Thank you very much. Maybe starting with Mr. Eli and Ms. Falkman, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues and members of the committee and the Minister. Just around the issue around the question was asked on page 73 around the toolkits, the public ordinary schools. Just to say to members here that those toolkits were ordered and it was delivered. And the department has paid most of that money as well, because obviously we can only pay once the goods are being delivered. So that's just been taken care of in terms of that particular aspect. Then, Chairperson, as far as the adjustment budget is concerned, in terms of the tables, obviously there are various descriptions to be used. So where we use the word misalignment or realignment, that is a technical aspect where we're classifying between categories in either goods and services or transfer payments, but it doesn't, the funding hasn't been shifted away from the purpose itself. It's all technical adjustments we made, because when the budget was drawn up at the first instance, we put in a particular category, and then the adjustment budget allows us to become a bit more accurate in where the funding needs to be allocated in terms of those particular categories, however still within the program as well. And then as far as the back on track reprioritization is concerned, there was no funding that was shifted away from compensation to back on track. Those, if you read the tables carefully, in terms of the question was posed, it's actually not the same thing. It's funding was shifted from one place to the other, but it was a reclassification within the BOT program itself. And so there was no funding shifted away from compensation to the BOT program, just in terms of that clarification as well. I think the issues covered me on the Westgrow matter. Then I think the last matter I want to respond to is about the shifting from program 6.3 to 6.2. So program 6 is infrastructure program. So these are just realignments that we are doing within the infrastructure budget, where we're shifting funding away from, in those particular categories, special schools to public ordinary schools. But these are realignment issues. Yeah, where projects are being just realigned and reshifted within the same program. if members do understand what I'm trying to explain, but these are more technical in nature than the actual reprioritization away from public ordinary schools or special schools as well. I hope members understand that explanation. Thank you, SG.
Mr. Eli, apologies for interrupting, but something that, for example, the Children's Commissioner during the DORA session also said to us is we need to make the words very child-friendly. So the same way I asked National Treasury, okay, when you say savings, you're actually saying we're taking the money back, the energy money that National Treasury took back from municipalities. So can you just quickly just explain to those who are watching on YouTube, what is realignment? It's when you say projects are being realigned within the same program, what do you mean?
Yeah, Chairperson, so let me start off with realignment. Basically means we're not shifting funding away from the program. It's still within the program. It's within obviously the program manager's prerogative, exactly how which projects he's prioritizing and which projects he's now reconsidering in terms of the progress to date. Because as you know, Chairperson, when you draw up a budget, you draw up that budget based on particular assumptions. Obviously, you monitor the progress as you go through the year. And obviously, especially with what the issues mentioned, and you will see it from our budget as well in Program 6, the budget for infrastructure was reduced. And so therefore, that also required some reconsideration in terms of its projects as well. So that's why there was a shift away from special schools to public-only schools in terms of project realignment. But so, Chairperson, the bottom line is we're not taking money away from that particular program when we talk about realignment. It's just a reprioritization within that particular program itself. I'm not sure if I'm coming over very clearly at the moment, Chairperson.
So basically, in that program, you gave them money and they said, okay, project X doesn't need to happen immediately. Project Y needs to maybe happen immediately. So we need to make sure project Y is funded.
That's correct, Chairperson.
As an example. Okay. I'm on the same WhatsApp group. You may continue. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I just ask Mr. Mohammed, do you want, Mr. Eli did mention about bot. Is there anything else you want to perhaps add to that?
Good morning, Chairperson. I think I am covered, but just to indicate that we are monitoring very carefully the impact the program is having on learners as well as teachers, and the signals are generally very positive. Thanks, SG.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, anything you want to add? Mr. Eli also did answer the shifting of funding from public special schools, sorry, from special schools to public schools. Is there anything you wish to add?
Yes, actually, just for Member Kamana's purposes, the reason why there was the rollover was because the nature of these assessments that we need to do of the assistive devices, does take longer, in terms of a research process and so on. But we can say that all of that has now been procured, and the last invoice will be paid at the end of this particular month. Thank you.
Chairperson, I think we've covered broadly all the questions that have been asked. And then the Minister, may I enter the Minister?
Just hang on quickly. The municipal services, have we dealt that one? Can I just confirm, have we dealt with the municipal one?
Yeah, Chairperson, I thought I've covered with the misalignment explanation.
Okay. No, I thought perhaps we were still at Program 6 for that one. No, then I'm covered in that. Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think just to respond to the Honourable Christian's question, particularly where he asks, I think, a very pertinent question about the consequences of the public sector wage agreement and the funding shortfall for essentially learning and teaching. And I think it's important, for honourable members to sort of understand what we are dealing with. And as Brent Walters has said, I mean, national government have imposed very significant budget cuts. I mean, national government has not funded the full cost of living adjustment, leaving a 537 million rand shortfall. And of course, conditional grants, especially the education infrastructure grant, has been cut by about 179.4 million. And I think what we all need to understand is that these budget cuts are unprecedented because for the first time ever, they are imposed by a national government in year. In other words, they apply, as honourable members understand, this year and have immediate effect. And also some of those budget cuts, including the conditional grant budget cuts, were imposed very late in the financial year, as late as the 23rd of October this year. And I mean, in the end, it is a massive blow to the education departments, not just in our province, but of course to provinces across the country. And I think if you go back to the national medium-term budget policy statement, I think the National Minister of Finance and National Treasury put the consequences of these budget cuts very well, where they say, Honourable Christians, and I'm quoting, provincial education departments will be constrained in hiring additional teachers, which will lead to larger class sizes and higher teacher-to-learner ratios, possibly resulting in weaker education outcomes. So the consequences of national government's budget cuts and the failure to fund the full cost of living adjustment will have significant consequences, not just for the education department in our province, but for education departments in provinces across South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I'm going to take the second round of questions. Member Christians. Okay, if Member Christians is the only hand, I'll then do mine after his. Okay, I see a second hand. Member Syed and Member Karma. Member Karma, just remember you have 2 questions for this round because you used your third one earlier. Thank you so much, in that order.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Department Minister for those replies. Chair, if I look at page 78, conditional grants, and I look at the 4.2 million reduction in math, science, and technology on conditional grant due to fiscal consolidation, I'm extremely concerned. You know, we are struggling with maths. And it's one of the topics that I always bring up, the pure maths. If the department can just elaborate on that, you know, how we already, I mean, we visited schools where, you know, people do math lit, and we are pushing that people get quality education. So that is a significant problem that I foresee there, with the minister now saying that there will most probably be bigger class sizes, and that is a major problem, because then we are actually diluting our quality of education, because we already have you know, huge class sizes in certain areas. Just to go to page 84, and that's also shifting of funds, 858 million to the Department of the Premier for rendering legal services. Is that now the intergovernment dispute that the province is going to have? And is that, if it's that, is that you know, the only contribution that is going to be made by the education department? Because when you don't have money, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know. And that maybe, Minister, this is a political question, because I don't know if the province is going to have, you know, success. But most probably you need to, Premier need to try to at least get some formal agreement by national government. But, you know, I'm just thinking now you have, if it's that 858 million rand, that you could have utilized for something else, but now you give it to legal. So I don't know if I'm right on that one. If it's towards the intergovernmental dispute, I don't know. And maybe just the last question, Chair, for this, I just see that some of the funds is going to vote 13 for, I had it here, vote 13, also page 84, to culture, sport and sport for violence support through the life orientation program. If I can just, just get some clarity on that program, and maybe just why was it necessary to serve funds to cultural affairs and sport for that program? Thank you, Chair. That's my 3.
Thank you so much. Member Syed?
Chair, thank you very much. Mine is on page 77, sub-program 6.3, public ordinary schools building and other fixed structures. I just wanted to know, Chair, in this budget, we see nearly 810 million rand of buildings and other fixed structures being shifted to be utilized for maintenance and other capital infrastructure needs at school. I just wanted to get a sense as to what is the justification for this and how will it affect the building of new schools. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Member Karma?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I don't have new questions, actually. I just wanted to make a follow-up, Chair. I'm a bit confused around this thing of shifting of funds and the explanation that Mr. Eli was giving us, because the table, as I read it, I read it as an indication of funds that are shifting, because the left of the table will give you from where the funds are shifting, and on the right you will get to where they're being shifted to. And in the first question I had on 73, I saw an amount of about 12.5 million rand that was being shifted from sub-program 1.3, which is education management, compensation of employees. And I see the 12.5 million rand again as being shifted on the other hand on goods and services. And the motivation is that the funds are reprioritized towards the back on track program. And likewise, Chair, on the question I asked around the special needs, because on 77, the 29.8 million rand is shifted from special schools, and the reasoning that is provided, motivation that is provided, is that it's a reallocation of funds in response to infrastructure maintenance needs in public ordinary schools. And it does say on the other end that the funds will be utilized for maintenance at public ordinary schools. So I don't know where I get the confusion, because I understand this to mean that there's 29.8 million rand which has been shifted, although it's in the same program, which is infrastructure development. But in terms of sub-programs, the money is shifted from special schools to public ordinary schools. And the question therefore was, does this mean there are no infrastructure or maintenance infrastructure maintenance needs in the special public in the special schools, and in the context of the need and the cries that have been made by the public in terms of access to the special schools, couldn't we have used that money of 29 million rand to address infrastructural challenges in the special schools that would broaden access in those schools? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much. Minister and HOD?
Okay. Minister, you're on mute.
Again, I'll ask the department to deal with the questions, and I will
Thank you very much, Minister. So I'm just going to ask if Mr. Eli can just address himself to the question asked by Mr. Kama in relation to the shifting of funds. And then I'm going to try and answer the others. And then Mr. Mohammed, if you can maybe just talk to the program of, I think the name is Kuma, but you know the name of that program that DCAS is doing with us in relation to violence in schools and so on. If you can maybe just talk to that program, please, Mr. Mohammed. But maybe just to say that on the question of Chairperson, we are underfunded. That's the truth of it. We're running a bigger state here, the oldest state in South Africa. Maintenance is required on our schools, and we have growing demand, which is unprecedented. And that growing demand is just getting worse and worse and worse every year. And so we have to cope with having to balance two things. We have to cope with building new infrastructure to be able to address the demand and maintaining all the infrastructure. And we are not funded to the extent that we can do that completely. And so what you see in the budget and what you see also in the adjustments, but this generally is a balancing act that the department always has to cater for, because we're not fully funded to be able to execute. The infrastructure is very expensive, and of course, it also takes time, but we're not fully funded to be able to perform that. There isn't enough money. That's really the truth of it. And I think in this adjustment, we can see that even in the money that National gave us, there wasn't enough money, so we weren't actually fully funded even for a wage agreement that was sort of agreed. So that's just in terms of when we start asking questions about why do we do one thing or another, we have to make choices. And so the choices are informed by, clearly we need to maintain, but we also have to service the new learners who are coming into our system and growing each year. And so clearly we have to balance these two, and we try and do the best that we can under the circumstances. I think on the question that Mr. Christian asked about the MST and consolidation of pure mathematics. So clearly we, in this area, Mr. Christian, I'll just say to you, this is not something you will be able to do in 1 year or even 5 years. It requires an overall approach, and I believe we have done the correct educational thing in education to start to look at the foundation phase. I know this may not be, the instant solution that perhaps the people have oversight over us want to hear, but you can only build a system from the bottom. And mathematics is a subject that if your bottom is not built properly, if the foundation is not there, you've got nothing to build on when you get to the more senior levels. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is, it is truth in the world that many learners across the world struggle with mathematics, except in some of the Eastern cultures where discipline is at the center of their culture and almost a lot of repetition at the center of their culture. And so therefore they seem to be able to cope with mathematics in a much easier way. But in our situation, it's building from the bottom, so that in the end, we can get to a situation where we have as many students as possible taking mathematics at the grade 10 level, which is what you also referenced in the question that you had asked. And so a lot of effort has been going into also, besides the foundation phase, but it's also been going into the introduction to algebra, which is now in grade 8. It was always in grade 8, but it shifted, but we've pushed it back to grade 8 overall as a country. And so to look at that and investment in that in a big way by the department, what I mean is an effort investment to be able to make sure that we've got the right people teaching that introduction to algebra, and then you start to lay the foundations to build on, so that you can actually increase the maths reach. So that's just in relation to that. And then on the question about Vote 1 and legal services, I almost think that us and Health will be the main user of legal services. And Mr. Christian, you do know that legal services is a centralized function inside the Western Cape government. So that would just be cases legal services did many cases on our behalf, many cases. And so that would just be a transfer in relation to them. I think I've answered all of that. If Mr. Eli could perhaps just address himself to the question of Mr. Kama, and if Mr. Mohammed can just maybe talk about the project with TCAS. Thank you. Colleagues?
Yeah, thank you, SG. Just around the question around the Mr. Kama's question on page 73. On page 73 at the bottom of that table, we are referring to subprogram 1.3, and it's named Education Management. So on your left-hand side, you will see there it's got a category there called Compensation of Employees, and then it says Repatriation of Funds toward Fiscal Consolidation, and in brackets it's about 12.96 million rand. And then on your right-hand side, you'll see it's obviously subprogram 2.1, public primary level, and it's for goods and services, repatriation towards the Back on Track program. So what we are doing there is we're shifting money from the Back on Track program for compensation in education management, which is program 1, to program 2 for goods and services required for the Back on Track program. So that's why I was trying to say that we're not shifting funding away from compensation to Back on Track. It's a reclassification around the same program that we are dealing with here. If that's a bit more clearer, Chairperson, in terms of response in Mr. Kama's question. Then, and also on page 77, Mr. Kama, through your chair, asked a question around the program 6. So if you take program 6, and again, what the SG's mentioned, so your adjustments got a number of things. And again, as I said, Chairperson, it deals with assumptions, but then it also deals with reality as well. So we do have pressure on maintenance as far as public ordinary schools are concerned. And here it's a question of where we spend most of our money on as well, in terms of invoices coming through. And so therefore we have to cater for that, Chairperson, where certain programs have run quicker than or faster than others. And therefore it doesn't say that some programs are more important than others. All it's saying is that, look, we have noticed that some projects have run faster than others, and therefore obviously we have to shift the funding to those programs so we can pay those invoices that's becoming on hand, and that we do through the adjustment budget process in terms of transparency as well. Chairperson, I'm hoping I'm coming across very clearly now as far as how these tables read in terms of the technicality as well. I think the SG has covered, yeah. And then also Mr. Christensen's question on page 84, just to say that the amount SG in terms of legal services is 858,000 Rand and not a million as Mr. Christensen's who were reading it. It's thousands of rands, not millions. So I think, Chairperson, just lastly, on page 77, I think the SG has taken care of and answered the question around the shifting of maintenance. And I think I've also covered that as well in terms of, where projects are and how fast they are running and how we shift funding towards those projects in terms of payment for those particular projects. Chairperson, if there's any further questions around clarity of what I've said, I'm quite happy to take that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eli. Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, SG. So the Shukuma project, as you indicated, is a partnership between us and DCAS, and there's also involvement from .P. It involves a pilot that has been running for a couple of years now in schools in hotspot areas, hotspot meaning, there's high levels of violence. The project works to supplement the life orientation program and has recruited and trained facilitators drawn from universities and in the broader society that go in and work with learners who are manifesting signs of trauma. Generally, the project has made quite a bit of progress. The participants are expressing appreciation for the opportunity to de-stress from this trauma that they're experiencing. And the pilot is going to continue. We started off with about 4 schools a few years ago. We're now in about plus 50 schools. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, I don't know if there's anything you wish to add, Minister.
Thank you. Just in relation to the Honourable Furlong Christians' question on legal services, I just want to be clear that that is unrelated to the intergovernmental dispute. That is really to provide additional support both to the department and to the ministry in the numerous legal matters and appeals that both the department and the ministry deal with during the course of any one financial year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I'm going to take a last round of questions. And the reason I'm taking a last round of questions is I'm trying to put some time aside for the other business on the agenda as well. I see Member Christians.
Chair.
Okay, I only see Member Christians' hand, so I'll go after Member Christians. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. No,
Member Syed after that.
Okay, thank you. No, it's just a follow-up. Yeah, it's 858,000, not million. I thought I said thousand, but I'm glad the minister gave clarity now. But the question is, I know that legal service is centralized, but what I want to know is, so that 558,000 is not for the intergovernmental dispute. What is this department going to contribute towards that dispute, if any? That's the only question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Syed.
A quick one, and it's not necessarily directly related. I just received actually now from a member of the public question asking, they heard that there's that building, there's some rumor going around that building at schools and construction work has been halted in the province. Now, I don't think that is true, but I just wanted to get a sense from the department if they can confirm that. I just got this message, so I'm using the opportunity. Thank you. That's all from my side.
No problem. And then I just also have one question because my other particular questions on the national funding has been answered. I just want to understand, firstly, on page 78, dealing with the respective national conditional grants that will be cut, the maths one, the EPWP one, early childhood development, education infrastructure, as well as the social sector, EPWP one, and the HIV and AIDS one all being cut. Did the national department give reasons as to why it's being cut and why these specific amounts? Was it just we're cutting across the board a certain percentage? Did they take the needs of provinces into account? If we can just get an indication as to what the thinking of the national department was behind cutting these particular amounts, because it amounts to 179 million rand cut on conditional grants that we're receiving. Then the second one, on page 79, the department is receiving extra money for the solar photovoltaic in the schools, amounting to 37.6 million, as well as for infrastructure service delivery pressures of 56.4 million. And then when you look a little bit down on that page, relating to the realignment of the LED lighting to solar photovoltaic. So I just want to understand, so are we taking then the LED money that we're going to spend and we're actually saying, actually schools need solar more, so we're giving that money to solar and it's been topped up by the province? If I could just get a little bit of an understanding as to how that shift happened and where that shift is coming from. And I just want to check as my last question, that 56 million for infrastructure service delivery pressures. I know in the MTBPS that was delivered, it focused mainly on maintenance. Are we getting this money from the provincial reserves? Where are we getting this money from? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to ask the Minister if he can maybe just assist me with the question asked by Mr. Christians. And then the question also asked by Mr. Said. Minister, those two. I'll try and answer the others. If that's okay, Minister. Let me go first, and you can circle back. So I think maybe just on the National Department and the decision in relation to cuts. So remember, Chairperson, that all the departments across the country, we were asked to actually do a trimming exercise, and our national department wasn't immune to that. They were also asked to do a trimming exercise. And so there were 7 conditional grants, and they protected some of those grants, like the LSPID grant, they protected, and they protected the National School Nutrition grant. But they decided not going to take money from that. But then the others that were left, they indicated, well, we all have to take a 9% cut across the country, every department, because they also had to give up a level of funding to Treasury. And so that is what you see here, Chair, that essentially it is driven by the fiscal pressure that was placed on all departments across the country, including national, and they took that money from the national conditional grant. And then maybe to just indicate also that Mr. Eli will answer the question about the 56 million on infrastructure, specifically, the question that was asked by the chairperson. But maybe then just to say that, obviously, Chair, in our situation, for what we're trying to do with schools is we're trying to ensure that in the end they can become self-sufficient and use all the energy, natural energy at their disposal. And so therefore we pushing the idea of solar, because obviously the schools have buildings, and on the roofs of those buildings it is possible to do solar. And so a lot of projects are geared towards the solar area. If I could ask Mr. Eli, if he could perhaps just answer, and then Minister will answer the other 2 questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Just around the 37 million rand, Chairperson, that money we received additional in adjustment budget from our provincial treasury for the solar project, because there is obviously within the province, there is as the issue tried to indicate, there is a strategy in terms of the or less dependence on the grid, and so therefore Treasury gave us 37 million rand to promote that particular project. Then, as far as the 25 million is concerned, I think the issues covered that. That's also part of the cost savings measure to try and reduce our carbon footprint in terms of dependence on the Eskom grid as well. So yeah, thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Then just to respond to the Honourable Khalid Sayed and the question from the member of the public, no, school build has not been stopped in the province. In fact, the opposite is true. Our contractors are working hard to put up infrastructure, and will, as they did last year, be pushing right through much of the builder's holiday. As the honourable member might be aware, about 2 weeks ago, I was in Belhar, where we are putting up a new brick and mortar junior high school on the same property as Perseverance High School. So no, I can confirm that we are continuing to build schools and add classrooms despite the very significant budget cuts. Then on to the Honourable Furlong Christians, what on the intergovernmental dispute? We are certainly supporting the Department of the Premier, who are representing the whole of government, including the Education Department, in the intergovernmental dispute. And they will essentially be representing us and discussing how it is national government will make up the 537 million rand in-year shortfall for the cost of living adjustment. But I can assure the honourable member that the Education Department is supporting the Department of the Premier in the intergovernmental dispute with National Treasury.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I then want to ask whether there are any members of the public online that wish to ask a question as part of the public hearing stage of this legislation. If none, Ms. Hassan Musa, I just want to check if you received anything from members of the public.
Hi, Chair. Through you, I've received nothing. So there are no public also online with us.
Okay, thank you so much. Colleagues, I want to firstly say thank you to the Minister and to the department for being online with us during a very, very difficult budget season to come and defend Vote 5. As we know, in the national budget, the province needed 2.9 billion rand. The province received 1.7 billion rand. When reading this particular vote, this particular department, as per the national MTBPS, received 78% of their public wages, which amounts to 943 million. And they need an extra 537 million, as was confirmed in today's meeting. This was followed by 179 million rand budget cut on conditional grants. That needs to come from somewhere. And perhaps I'm also speaking a bit with my budget hat on. But when we read what is left in our reserves from the previous budget meeting in the beginning of the week, the stabilization reserve fund completely depleted to help the respective departments. And even when you look at the unforeseen and unavoidable position, property reserve money and our energy reserve money, only 668. So even if we had to give and 30 million rand shortfall public budget in education alone to education, that would only leave 131 million, which means every single department in this budget had to come to the table to say, what are we going to do in order to frontline services? And I just want to say thank you so much for in order to work towards saving those frontline services in this budget. I'm going to ask that the members please stay online for our consideration of the particular vote. And HOD, go about your daily business to continue to protect and build with.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Dealing with the consideration. As Musa, if you can just put up a draft report. All our members' views.
Sorry, Chair, you are not clear on my side. I'm the only one that's getting interference. Can you say that again, please?
Sorry, can you hear me a bit better now? I am at the office using WCP internet, so I'm not sure if you can hear me well.
Okay, that's a little bit better.
Yeah,
Thank you
clear
so
now.
much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem. If you can just put up the draft report for us, please, and then I'll ask for views. Okay.
Chair, can you
Can
see
we
it?
just? I can see that. Thank you so much. Okay, colleagues. Can we please indicate what our views are on vote 5, education? If I could see hands, please. Member Christians, Member Fry. Okay, I see those two hands. Member Christians, you can go first.
Support the vote, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Fry.
Chair, support the vote.
You Member Fry. Okay, let me just lower your hands. Okay, I see a third hand. Member Syed, you may go ahead.
Chair, the African National Congress does not support the vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to then ask Ms. Kamish Ahmed, and just for the record, I support this vote. Ms. Hassan Musa, if we can just make those edits quickly, and then I'll report.
Chair, do you see the new one that has the minority view?
Yes. Okay, if you could just quickly make it for me, please. Perfect. And let's just remember to judge as well, please. Okay. Colleagues, I'm now going to read the draft into the record, and then I will report to the members. Report of the Standing Committee on Education on Vote 5, Education in the Schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B7 2023, dated 30 November 2023, as follows. The Standing Committee on Education, having deliberated of Vote 5, Education in the Schedule to Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B7 2023, refer to the committee in terms of Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view to not support the vote. Colleagues, if I could have a move for the report that this is an accurate reflection. Member Frye.
Chair, I move the report as an accurate reflection and move to adopt.
Thank you so much. Could I get a seconder, please?
I second, Chair. Member Christians.
Thank you so much. The report is so adopted. Okay, just open my agenda here. Okay, colleagues, we have some committee matters that we just need to deal with. Ms. Hassan Musa, if you can just put the amended NCOP program that they sent us online. If you can just upload, what do you call it, share it with us, just so that we can have our discussion. Thank you.
Sure, just give me a second to pull it. Chair, is it visible?
It is visible, yes. That's the second one, right? The one that they sent amended version.
Yes, Chair. This one was sent on the 17th of November. The last one we received was the 7th of November. So this is after they had the briefing.
Perfect. Okay. Colleagues, even though the programs as sent by the NCOP serve as guidelines, I've asked that we just please bring this to the committee so that we are able to deal with considering when we will have our respective briefing. As you will know, I think the last exam in the province is only ending this next week. And we are obviously in our budget adjustment season. That will be followed by annual leave, as well as recess periods by members, as well as key stakeholders. And then when we come back, we are smack bang in the opening and start of the school season. So colleagues, we need to decide when we would like to have our first briefing. And Ms. Hassan Musa, if I understand correctly, after such first briefing, we will then discuss matters such as public participation, dates and expert hearings if members of the public choose to send those requests in.
That's correct, Chair.
And you may go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Given the timeline that you've just highlighted and outlined for us regards to the schools, can I move that we have the briefing on the amendment bill the week after the schools open? Given that, as you have said, exams haven't finished yet, we're in the budget season, and then we will go on recess, and then the stakeholders will then prepare for school opening. So I propose that we do the briefing in the last week in January. That's my move. That's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
No problem. Colleagues, are we happy with this? The last week in January that Ms. Hassan Musa and I then asked programming for a date.
Chair, I'm in agreement with that, Chair.
Okay, perfect. I don't see any other purple bubbles or hands going up, so I'm assuming everyone's happy with that. Okay. Then next, Ms. Hassan Musa, we received a request from Homeschooling Association to be kept up to date on the bill, and I've just asked Ms. Hassan Musa just to add them to our stakeholder list and emails, and that's just for feedback to the committee. Ms. Hassan Musa, I was also CC'd in a letter to the Speaker's Office from the FETSAS organization. And I'm just going to ask that you just forward that to the members after this meeting. But essentially what FETSAS is asking is they wish to do an expert briefing on the billable to the committee. And they've also listed their concern regarding short timelines. And they've also asked the Western Cape Provincial Parliament to ensure that there's transport for public participation for members of the public in various locations, that there are enough interpreters, and they speak to ensure that we need to be able to inform members of the public properly about what the bill is about. I'm just changing the fancy English into normal English, but members will get the letter. And that there's a consultation process and the importance of participation. They've quoted some court judgments for their references. And then there's a paragraph or two regarding important matters that they see as key aspects in the bill. I'm not going to go through that because that's substantive matters of the bill. Members will receive that letter. Yeah, and in the end of the letter, they ask to do an expert briefing on the particular bill. So, colleagues, my understanding, Ms. Hassan Musa, we don't need to consider that right now because we're going to do those type of considerations for our timelines after the first briefing. But I just wanted to give the members the respective feedback as to those type of matters that have been coming through. I just want to check Ms. Hassan Musa, is that correct? Before I just quickly take Member Fry's hand.
That's correct. Once the briefing takes place by the permanent delegate of the NCOP with the officials of the Department of Basic Education, and then the committee can decide on all invitations that they've received regarding to brief the committee on the said matter.
Perfect. And we also have an opportunity to send out to say you may participate on the bill, for example, or if you want to give a briefing, etc., etc. Just want to check that.
Sorry, Chair, you broke up there. The audio
So
is not
I'm
clear.
saying, and also I'm saying also as a committee, we will have an opportunity to ask members of the public, do you want to have a say, etc., etc. Here's what we are deciding in terms of public participation, etc., etc.
Yes, Chair, we will go through the process of the public participation after the briefing, and the members can unpack it. Also, they will unpack the areas in which they would want the public hearings to take place.
Okay.
Come after the briefing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I see Member Fry's hand and then Member Karma.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with you that we should set up the program once we receive the briefing from the department, and also decide on the program for the experts that would wish to brief the committee. Can I also add that we also engage the public engagement and outreach department of the WCPP to facilitate the transport and the attendance of the members of the public when we confirm the dates and locations of the various public hearings. Thank you, Chair.
I'm very much happy with that. I know PO is my understanding have a budget and we have a limited budget as a committee, so I'm happy with that. Member Karma?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether it's a clarity seeking question or a suggestion. I don't know, but on this issue that we have to deal with the program of public hearings and the other considerations, important considerations that you were alluding to earlier. Now, I don't know when you say after the briefing, what do we mean about that? As we could see from the program that was shared earlier, the NCOP, that a program that was shared earlier on, which indicated February as the month for public hearings, and now one is worried if we are only going to do, understanding that we have decided on the last week of January to do the briefing to the province, and I don't know whether the after the briefing means on another day, or are we going to do the decision of the program on the actual day that would have earlier received the briefing. I'm just raising the issue of time and trying to align ourselves to the program that has been given by the NCOP. Thank you very much. Chair.
No problem. I'll try to cover all of these. Ms. Hassan Musa, what I don't cover, if you can also just come in. So the NCOP program serves as a guideline when it comes to Section 76 legislation. And for this, I will quote the Lamosa judgment that dealt with the separate constitutional duty upon provincial legislatures when it comes to public participation and ensuring that such public participation is meaningful. So we also have to put our own program together as a Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Then in terms of, let me just have a look here, other considerations. So yes, so once the briefing is done in that last week of Jan, we will use the same session afterwards to say, okay, members, now, based on this briefing, because we must determine the impact of the bill, because we must say, okay, how big is this impact of the bill going to be based on this briefing now and what we are hearing? So we must now say, okay, how many public hearings are we going to have people ask us to do briefings to us? How many municipalities must we go to? We must make sure that our interpretation is in order, etc., that our logistics is in order. So that all stems from how big the impact of the bill is, and such impact we can determine once we have our first briefing. Member Kama, I hope this clarifies. Ms. Hassan Musa, if I've missed anything?
No, Chair, you've covered everything. Ideally, after the briefing on the same day, the committee discuss the program for the public hearing going forward.
I'm covered, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're covered. Okay. Colleagues, are there any other questions then on this before I move on to the other committee business? Okay, I don't see any hands or bubbles. Ms. Kamish, sorry, I've been in budget too long this week. Ms. Hassan Musa, if you could just put up our first set of documents, please. Okay. First one is of annual report. Just make it a little bit bigger, please. Perfect. Draft report on the annual report. Okay, that's page 1. Okay, let's go to page 2. Okay. If there are no edits, we can go to page 3. If there are no edits, we can go to page 4. Okay, and then that's the end. Colleagues, if there are no edits, if I could have a mover for the report.
Chair, I move the report to be adopted.
Thank you so much. May I have a seconder for the report?
Chair, second. Member
Thank you
Christian.
so much. Thank you so much. The report is adopted. We can go, I think it's just one set of minutes that we have left. Okay, that's 20. No, let me just have a look. 20 October. Okay, members can just check the attendance there. Okay, page 1. Then page 2. Okay. If we could have a mover for the minutes, please.
Chair, move the minutes.
Chair,
Thank you
second.
so much. Thank you so much. The minutes are so adopted. Ms. Hassan Musa, is there anything else that I may have forgotten in the feedback?
No, Chair, we covered everything that we needed to cover, and this is our last committee meeting for the year up until when we rise again in January for the briefing.
Sure. Colleagues, with that and with time to spare, I just want to say thank you so much for every single person's participation in this committee. Whether you be a permanent, alternate, additional, we are all members of this committee, and I really appreciate the robustness that we engage with in this committee. I also want to thank all of our respective procedural staff in this committee, especially Ms. Hassan Musa, for making sure that we always have our I's dotted and our T's crossed. I wish you all the best to everyone for the summer season, for the festive season. If you're celebrating Christmas and New Year's and so forth, please, and I wish you all the best. May you have a wonderful season. Please be safe on the roads. We all know that festive season comes with its own problems. If there are any youth listening to us online, please, we know that there are organized matric parties and things happening at end of years. Please, please, please be safe. Please, look after one another. Please be careful when it comes to things like alcohol and being on the roads. And with that, colleagues, that is the end of the year for us. I will then see you in the sitting next week.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.